What do you think, Greg? I'm starting to second guess if I should stay natty forever. Do you think?
Well, at least you're past 25.
Time under tension is the same as control, and do you think it's underrated or overrated?
I don't think time and tension and control are the same thing. You could do a lot of time and attention and have no control. I could have a really light weight and just flop around like Drake the Snake, but I think there's a big difference. But I think you need to have both time under tension and control at the same time.
Yeah.
Never ego lift.
Yeah.
As I got older, I used lighter weights and more control. When I was a kid, it was sets of 5 and 6 all the time. Whatever could get it up, because I thought the heavier the weight, the bigger my muscles are gonna be. But man, I was born like a million years ago, so we didn't have the science-based training. And now you can see you can get the same growth from doing more reps. And so I'm like, I'm 48, I don't wanna get injured.
Yep.
So my goal in training is to be safe, stimulate the muscle and be able to get there, not have too much soreness the next day.
Yep.
Like usually I don't really feel much soreness, and then I can train my whole body every 3 days. One thing I don't think people consider is the genetics of what the muscle's best at. I was talking to you on the way here, how my anaerobic lactic energy system is really strong. Like doing something for a minute, a lot better than my like anaerobic alactic energy system, which means without oxygen, like up to say like 10 seconds or whatever. I'm not that strong, but I can do a weight near my max for a long period of time. So for example, when I broke that Guinness record for deadlift in a minute, I don't have the strongest deadlift, but I can do a heavy weight over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in a set like this, I can do a lot of time under tension because my body's kind of made for that.
Yeah.
Other people, like World's Strongest Man, Mitchell Hooper, we talked about this. He's like, he can lift so much more weight than me, but if you lower the weight low enough, I might even be able to outdo him because I have more
duration.
strength endurance.
Yeah.
And so depending on your body, you might want to train really heavy like you're doing, or maybe with lighter weights for more reps like I'm doing. And
Yeah.
so I don't think there's one way that's better than the other. I think it really depends on the person. Now we're focusing a lot on the side delts here, and I'm not a fan of doing front delt raises. I feel like it's the most overrated exercise. Would you agree with that, or do you focus much on the front delt? Personally, I think that doing any pressing movements, you're gonna get enough growth, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that it really depends on the person. My chest is a weakness for me,
Yeah.
so I prefer to do more chest-focused pressing.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get, relative to my chest, my front delt's gonna be big enough for that, like, aesthetic.
Yeah.
I do think front raises are probably pretty overrated. The other thing too is if you do a front raise with a dumbbell, the upper chest actually has better leverage to move the arm until about here. So this is front delt for sure, but also upper chest.
Yeah.
Whereas if you want to do something that's like purely front delt, it would actually be from like here to here. But yeah, I mean, if somebody's front delts are really lacking and they can't do more pressing volume because their triceps will be overtrained or something like that, then it might be a good time to put that in there. But yeah, I think it's generally a movement that most people probably don't need to do.
I think the reason people like doing front delts is because it looks cool in the mirror when you're shredded.
Yeah.
Like when I'm peeled, sometimes I'll do it just because I want to see all the fibers in the chest, because when you're peeled, like 5% body fat, and you do that, everything looks sick. And so you see all these bodybuilders like Arnold Schwarzenegger, whoever back in the day, doing these front raisers looking like the bushwhackers from wrestling if you're around the 80s. But they do that because the muscles look cool, and so are they doing it to actually train that muscle, or are they doing it to look cool? I think it's so cool.
What do you think, Greg? I'm starting to second guess if I should stay natty forever. Do you think?
Well, at least you're past 25.
And I've been training for almost 12 years.
I mean, obviously the choice is that you should always stay natural, but I tell people if you're actually thinking about it, that you should at least think about it for a full year and research as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like I'm for being natural as long as possible.
Yeah.
And so if you're like dead set on it, and I actually made a video about this, like how do you know if you're ready or not? And I'm like, you gotta be at least 25, at least have trained near your natural genetic potential. Think about it for at least a year, and then hey, at that point, you're an adult, do whatever you think.
Do you think that like TRT or something like that would help with these injuries that I have?
Oh yeah.
Really?
TRT, peptides, BPC 157, TB 500, the Wolverine stack.
Yeah.
Speeds the rate of healing by 50% for sure. Without question.
Don't tempt me, Greg. Don't tempt me. You're supposed to be telling me not to.
Yeah. Well, there's like a gray area. Like, is a peptide to help you speed an injury the same thing as using tren? Like, obviously not. And
Yeah,
so
not.
it's on a spectrum. Anything natty or not is on a spectrum. Like, I tell everyone about turkesterone. Some people don't believe it works only because they haven't used my product yet. Once they use it, they know it's going to work. We have a money-back guarantee. But is that natural? Like, it's on the watch list. Like, will it be natty forever? Maybe not.
Yeah.
I would argue it shouldn't be natural because it's that strong. Like, I just stopped using it because the side effects are so strong that I'm like, it's a bit too much for me.
Yeah, you said it affects your sleep, eh?
Affects your sleep negatively. You're sleeping lucid dreams all the time, but it almost gives you a bit of anxiety if you're a person that's prone to that. And so, even though it's natural, it's still strong as heck. And so you got to be careful.
Yeah, so like, would you consider like Cialis natural?
Yes, I did that in a video as well. Cialis is natural because it's not on WADA's ban list, but does it have a performance-enhancing effect? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like if I took Cialis
Depends on the
before,
context.
well, if I took Cialis before the gym, my veins would be, without question, because I use it sometimes,
Yeah.
my veins would for sure be bigger.
Yeah.
So it would help me in a bodybuilding competition if they see the vascularity, like, look how lean you are.
True, yeah.
So it is performance-enhancing for sure, increased blood flow.
Yeah, because I think like a peptide's not going to give you an anabolic advantage, but it'll give you an advantage in the sense that you can get back to training more quickly. So like if somebody else they're injured and they're not using it, they're not able to train, you can train.
I think everything's on a spectrum because caffeine is a drug,
Yep.
and it was banned 20 plus years ago. I know people who failed for caffeine, and they covered it up,
Yep.
but it was banned and it's a drug. And so are you in fact natural if you drink coffee? The answer could easily be no, you're not. But WADA decided, hey, it's okay. And why? Because it's so common that, like, why are we banning it? And so if HRT becomes more common, eventually maybe that'll be natural. If if Cialis is more common, whatever drugs out there that might just say, hey, everyone's using it, let's just allow it.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe BPC 157 will be legal in 5 years. We don't know. What do you think about no fapping?
I have not looked into the research. I know there is some research on it. I remember hearing Andrew Huberman. I know he's a contentious topic.
I'm interested in him. I like his stuff.
I like him when he talks about neuroscience.
Yeah.
When he talks about things outside of his scope.
Yeah, like training.
He doesn't really know what he's talking about. But he said in a podcast, I remember listening to this like several years ago, he said if you refrain from masturbation, it increases testosterone negligibly, like not to any amount that's going to like result in better gains.
Yeah.
But then he said it also, if you do masturbate, increases testosterone temporarily as well for a short period of time afterward.
Yeah. I've seen that research as well, and so I'm like, it's not worth it. I don't even care. It helps more. You got to do something.
Yeah.
Not abstaining
just
from
make
sex
sure-
to get bigger biceps.
Yeah. I think like I definitely think porn is really bad for you. It's really bad for your brain.
Inherently, I'm
But, like,
not a fan.
I think masturbation in moderation is probably fine.
Go for it, guys.
You heard it here. Coach Greg says go for it.
Absolutely. Get her to give you that hot tua.
What do you think about mind-muscle connection? Overrated or underrated?
I would say it's underrated because most people don't even think about it. So I think it's got a great benefit. You should be thinking about the muscle that you're working while you're doing the exercise. So we're in one of probably the most hardcore gym in Halifax. And I would bet that more than 50% of people in here right now at a peak time are not thinking about their mind-muscle connection at all. I think they're just going through the motions. So that's why I think it's underrated, because like no one's actually doing it. You're saying most fitness influencers are pushing it really strong, but I think they're pushing it strong because no one's actually using it.
I think it's because a lot of fitness influencers don't really know a lot about what actually causes growth and what's important. So, like if you listen to a fitness influencer or a YouTuber who just likes fitness, but they're not that educated, usually what they tell you to do is like, they don't really know what to say, so they just say, yeah, feel the muscle, squeeze it, you want to get the stretch and the contraction. They're just kind of saying words that like people understand what they mean, but they don't really understand like, it's like, why is that beneficial?
Now, you mentioned that you thought you were probably 18% body fat. I would say you're probably a little bit less than that, but
Yes.
what are your feelings on main gaining? For example, staying this percent body fat, let's say it's 15,
Yep.
and just putting on muscle from here at 240 pounds versus saying, no, I gotta eat 500 calorie surplus for 12 weeks and gain 10 pounds and get to 250 and then cut for 5 weeks and then just going back up and down like that. What do you think the difference is overall?
So this is a great question because I remember watching your videos like 6-7 years ago, thinking and hearing about main gaining.
Yeah.
And I know this is something that you get a lot of pushback with.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
I think it's a semantics issue. What I mean by that is when you say main gaining, you don't actually mean perfect maintenance. What you mean is like not bulking, dirty bulking, like not hammering food into you and growing slowly. And like if you just stick around maintenance, you're inevitably going to grow.
I mean, just like basically, if you were to say, I want to get more muscles, what should I do? I would say, do what you're doing.
Yeah.
You look great right now, stay there, and in a year from now, you're perhaps 5 pounds bigger with more muscle at the same body fat versus somebody saying, no, that's going to be too slow. You need to eat more food, go up to 250, 260, and then do a mini cut, and then keep doing cycles of 3 months of bulk, 2 months of cut, 3 months of bulk, 2 months of cut, versus I'm like, no, you look good, just always look good and put on muscle.
Yeah, so my approach to it is very much that. The data right now shows that to maximize muscle protein synthesis, you only need about a 10% calorie surplus at the most. But I think you should take bulks really slowly, especially the more advanced you are, and you should take cuts a little bit more aggressively so that you can spend more time in a surplus. But when I say surplus, I mean a very small one.
Yeah, so my thing with bulking, cutting versus main gaining is I think in the end you have the same results. I think whatever one makes you happier is the one you should do. The extra gains you get from being in, say, the 300 calorie surplus, which is like 10% of 3,000 calories.
Yeah, which is
whatever
a small
you gain
surplus.
from that, I feel you're going to lose when you then have to go on a, say, 300 calorie deficit. So if you bulk at 300 calories for 10 weeks and then cut at whatever calories for 10 weeks, whatever advantages you got in building muscle faster in a bulk, you're gonna lose by being in a deficit. That's my theory on that. You're gonna net the same.
I would disagree just to the extent that the research doesn't really show you lose a ton of muscle if you execute a cut properly. So as long as your protein's high and you're still training this in a way that allows you to recover and continue to access those high threshold motor units, you're gonna be able to maintain muscle. It's only when you get really, really, really lean or you're in a massive deficit and you're lean that you're gonna risk losing muscle.
I think as long as you have enough food to come into the gym and do like we both did, I think we got great pumps.
Yeah.
I had energy throughout.
Yep.
I think both of us, despite our differences in body fat, I think we're both able to put on muscle.
You call me fat?
A little bit fatter than me, but no. I think what I'd call you is at an ideal body fat percentage. I would consider me on the extreme high end of being lean.
Yeah, you're definitely
And
pretty
I think
lean.
because I'm on HRT, I'm allowed or able to do this. I think if I were 100% natural, I couldn't do it this level. And being natural in my past, I found anything below 12 where I started to suffer that I didn't feel like I could push the same. But being on HRT now, even though I'm like on a lower calorie diet compared to my body, I still have testosterone levels in the 500s. I just did a test and I'm on 140 milligrams a week.
Yep.
My test is at 565 nanograms per deciliter. I feel great. Now, if I weren't on HRT, that might suppress my testosterone levels too low and I wouldn't make gains.
Yep.
So I don't preach being single digit body fat, but I always say somewhere on 15%, that's ideal for growth. And so I would just do what you're doing. Yeah, so I mean, if you want to bulk, if you want to cut, if you want to main gain, if you want to like, what do you call it, recomp? I mean, do what makes you happy because it has to be fun. Just like we said, your training has to be fun, your diet has to be fun. And so if you're bored of being at 12%, you want to go on a mini bulk, well, go on a mini bulk. But just because you're bored doesn't mean that somebody else who's 12% can't just main gain. I had a great workout with Evan Holmes. You should have seen me trying to pronounce Eric Janicki.
Yeah.
That was a nightmare. He was like, are you for real? And Mitchell Hooper, same thing. I kept saying Mitchell Cooper or Michael, and it was just, they think I'm doing this on purpose. I'm like, no, I just have that bad of a memory, but people don't understand, but believe it. But anyway, it was a great workout. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Don't forget about GO2 Max, Church Builder, the cookbooks, training books, coaching plans by me and my team. Follow the two bloops over there. And until next time, I am out.